an historic moment in the Gambia. After 22 years in power, Yahya Jammeh has stepped down, and Adama Barrow has taken oath as the new president. Many people here believe Barrow will change politics as usual. But officials say Jammeh carried out one final act before he left the country, emptying the state funds.
Within the period of 2 weeks alone, nearly $500 million were withdrawn by the former president. That's a lot of money.
Luxury cars and other items were also reportedly loaded onto a cargo plane from Chad. Jammeh, who is now in exile in Equatorial Guinea, has not commented on the allegations. But by avoiding a major conflict in the nation, by finally stepping aside, the alleged loss of state cash may be a small price to pay for regional stability. The Gambia is one of Africa's smallest countries. Situated along the continent's western coast, unlike many of its neighbors, it has enjoyed long-term political stability. But when Yahya Jammeh was defeated in 2016's shock election by opposition candidate Adama Barrow, a political crisis ensued. Jammeh initially conceded defeat, congratulating Barrow for his clear victory. Many political prisoners were freed from jail in the following days, but after the official results came out, Jammeh changed his mind, saying he will not step down, citing abnormalities. Regional governments, the US and the UN pressured him to accept the result. The crisis dragged on to 2017, and the Gambia's army chief reaffirmed his loyalty to Jammeh. Tensions rose in the country, and thousands began fleeing to neighboring Senegal. Shortly after, Jammeh declared a state of emergency, blaming foreign powers for the crisis. 2 days later, Barrow was sworn in as president at the Gambian embassy in Senegal, and UN-backed regional forces gave Jammeh a deadline to step down before they intervene. He took them up on the ultimatum the next day, before any altercation began. Barrow is now still in Senegal, but says he is ready to set foot on his nation's soil within the next few days, a nation that he says has now become a democracy. Donald Cameron, The Newsmakers.
Well, joining me now is the Honourable Abdul Sarah Janha from London. He's the former Secretary General and head of the Gambia Civil Service. Thanks so much for joining us, sir. So, not a shot fired, and we had a peaceful resolution in the end when many feared that this was going to be civil war because Jammeh didn't want to go. He's gone now. Has the Gambia bucked the trend on the continent? Is this great news?
Oh, very great news, of course, that we were able to sort this out without any fatality and no form of violence. I think it's great, and it's great for the West African region in particular.
Did the reality really, dawn on Jammeh, and did the penny drop for him when he realized, I might not get away with this?
I think the reality dawned on him that really he cannot get away with it, because the 7,000 troops were determined to get Barrow inaugurated as president of the Gambia. And Jammeh was not quite sure whether he would get the full support of the Gambian army itself. That's why at the end of the day he called Alpha Condé, president of Guinea, and the president of Mauritania to intervene at the last minute, because ECOWAS were poised to move in and get him out by force. Luckily, this was averted.
There are those who want him prosecuted. There are people talking about the ICC. There are people saying that he needs to be held accountable in some way, shape, or form. He also didn't leave with empty pockets. There's about $11 million missing. With all of that in mind, should he be held to account, or should we be looking at the big picture and say, hey, he's gone at least, and Barrow now is the democratically elected leader? Going after Jammeh would be counterproductive. What do you think?
My view is we should follow what the President Barrow said, that we're going to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and proper investigation will be done, and if he is found guilty of any of the crimes that have been indicated, torture, the murder of people, innocent people, the confiscation of property that belongs to the private citizen without due recourse to the courts, and his total neglect of the rule of law, then really the dice will be cast and we will seek for his extradition and prosecution.
Final question for you, sir. How difficult is it going to be for Barrow to unite the country, given that there were many citizens of the Gambia and many members of the military, key members of the military and others who had supported Jammeh staying? So how hard is it going to be to unite the country for Barrow?
It's not going to be that difficult, because really people were living under a very serious fascist form of government. Even those who were supporting Jammeh were doing it because of fear, out of fear. And one community in general, in particular, the community where he comes from, the ethnic group where he comes from, feels also as persecuted by Jammeh. They couldn't react because the guy had the military under his thumb. He has the notorious National Intelligence Service, which was used to torture Gambians to put them in line. And it's almost equivalent to the Tantam Makud of Haiti, very notorious in every sense of the word. So right now, Barrow is riding on a wave of high expectation and huge support from the Gambian public. So if he moves in positively and keep that spirit on, I think he will be able to unite the country for the transition period of 3 years.
I've got to wrap. Unfortunately, the show's ending, but it's been a pleasure, Abdusara Janhat.